unbiased, fan-friendly Syracuse sports coverage on WSKO Syracuse. A Cumulus media station, the voice of the Central New York sports fan, The Score, 1260. Welcome to your home for local sports in Syracuse. Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands starts right now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Riding solo today, as you can tell if you're watching on Twitch, YouTube, or Twitter. That's right, the show is simulcast on 3 different platforms every single Saturday. Follow me on Twitter at marker_box. You can check out twitch.tv/marker_box. If you want to watch on Twitch, or go to the Score 1260 YouTube channel, and you can interact with me there as well. We've already got Stone Sports Podcast in the chat, one of the better shows on the internet. Stone does a great job with Armchair Sports every single week with his show, and should at some point bring back the Half Ounce Half Hour, something I've been saying for a long time, which was, in my opinion, the best show on the internet, where we would hop on and take a look at crazy news stories from the week. We had a lot of fun on that show. Josh and I used to be regular guests on that one. So make sure to check out Stone Sports Podcast. Wow, 142 live listeners on Wednesday. That's damn good, Stone. That's damn good. So make sure you're part of that group next time. Good friend of mine who's doing great work with Armchair Sports commentary on their show every Wednesday. A lot of things to talk about today. Of course, SU football playing tonight at NC State. An interesting game. A game that, when the line first came out, I want to say it was at 5.5, 6.5, around there, and has very steadily moved the way of NC State. Syracuse now just a 2.5-point favorite on the road against the Wolfpack. And we'll get into that game. I think some injuries on the side of Syracuse certainly not helping their case as they go into NC State. But a lot of things to talk about with that game. Could be a big win for Syracuse if they're able to pull it out on the road against a conference opponent. A lot of playoff baseball to talk about. How about those amazing New York Mets? Just dog walking the Phillies in the NLDS to move on to the National League Championship Series, where they will take on the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers beating division rival Padres last night in Game 5 of that side of the NLDS. That's going to be a very fun series. As Stone says, the power of friendship is very strong. It's not just the power of friendship. It's the power of Grimace. It's the power of Jose Iglesias being one of the great Latin pop stars of our generation. It's a lot of things. It's the power of Haley Welch throwing out the first pitch, better known as the Hawk Tua girl. Not going to get into the context of that, but there's a lot of things going the Mets' way, a lot of mojo that the New York Metropolitans have going on right now. And as a bandwagon Mets fan for this postseason, since, of course, I do also work with the Syracuse Mets, and there's a lot of guys on this team that came through Syracuse. Mark Vientos, former Syracuse Met, has been doing great things for the big club, both in the regular season and especially in the postseason. He's been one of the best hitters on the Mets team this postseason. So we'll get into a breakdown of that series. And then the other team plays today that I've been rooting for, thanks to my good friend Evan Stockton, one of the voices of your Syracuse Mets. Born and raised in the Metro Detroit area, his Motor City Gritty Kitties have been something to watch. And I've been a really big fan of that team. That hot streak they went on at the end of the year to even sneak into the playoffs, and their play in these playoffs against the Cleveland Guardians has really been something to watch. So we're going to break down all of that as well. And we had our first NFL head coach firing of the season. Pat, what time do the Sox play this week? Yeah, I know, we stink. I never said that the Red Sox were going to be good this year. I hoped that that team would be 500, and they were incredibly mediocre the entire year. So I'm more than fine with how the Red Sox played this year. I knew they weren't going to be a playoff team. So they were just very average, and that's fine. They were really good for a little bit, and then not very good for a lot of it. That's okay. Now, I think the ownership stinks and should probably sell the team. But that's just me. And Craig Breslow, we will see if he's allowed to actually spend money like the president of baseball operations for the Boston Red Sox should be able to do. Maybe they can put something together, but it's fine. It's okay. I'm not talking about the Red Sox. I'm talking about the Mets. I'm talking about the Tigers. I'm talking about the Dodgers. I'm talking about everything that's going on in the world of baseball postseason. But we're also going to be talking about the New York Jets firing head coach Robert Saleh, getting replaced with defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, who we'll get into why he was the pick. We'll get into what the Jets are going to look like moving forward. It was funny. I was just listening to the Best of the Man-Child show with Boy Green, which airs before this show. And I thought Jim Lurch made a great comparison about Davante Adams potentially going to the New York Jets. And we'll talk about that as the show moves on. So we're going to take a timeout. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes to talk about all sorts of things going on in the world of sports. You're listening to Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260. For the best local beer in central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score. Yep, no Josh this week, Jim. He's back on his boycott. He has to work. Yeah, and Pat, I think there's no chance Davante Adams goes to the New York Jets. Also, did I say Devontae Smith before? Or did I say Davante Adams? I don't remember. Okay, I said Adams. Cool. And Stone said I think he said Smith. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Davante Adams. The Jets are a massive dumpster fire, Jim, and we're going to talk about. That organization stinks. I'm going to be the anti-Boy Green today. Pat, doubling down Sunday and Monday Night Football. I love it. No, you can't say no to free tickets. It's Sunday Night Football. Giants got, is it the Bengals? They're going to get dog walked by the Bengals? Oof. The Giants are kind of frisky. And the Bengals aren't great. Their defense stinks. And we're back. Short time out here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260. Just talking, shout out Pat, who's in the chat today, going to Sunday and Monday Night Football this week. Doubling down at the Meadowlands. That's going to be a lot of fun. Giants hosting the Bengals Sunday night. And then, of course, those new look New York Jets taking on the Buffalo Bills on Monday night this week in a game that I'm not really looking forward to because it seems like it could be a lot of ugly football, especially if Josh Allen has a similar week to what he did last week, going 9 for 30 throwing the ball. But we will get a look at the New York Jets without head coach Robert Saleh. Saleh fired after 4 years at the helm of the New York Jets. And listen, he had the third worst winning percentage in the history of New York Jets football. I understand. This team is not bad because of Robert Saleh. This team is bad because they have Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator, who people might remember when I was filling in on the Man-Child show with Boy Green, when Hackett was hired as the head coach of the Denver Broncos, I said this is one of the worst hires you could have made. The guy is, Pat says Hackett should be the head coach. If they want to lose the rest of the year. I really think Nathaniel Hackett brings nothing as an offensive coordinator, as a head coach. He's only there because Aaron Rodgers had him in Green Bay as the offensive coordinator. And it's another classic case of a guy tricking front offices into thinking he's a good offensive coordinator when he just had a really good quarterback, which is what Aaron Rodgers was when he was in Green Bay. I'm not willing to say that right now about current Aaron Rodgers. So he gets a head coaching job. That lasts, what was it, like 7 weeks before he's canned from Denver, ends up going to New York. They bring in Rodgers. This is their first season together. Obviously, Rodgers goes down 4 plays into the season last year. And the offense is not good. They've got good running backs that they don't use properly, so they can't really run the ball. They've got good receivers, specifically Garrett Wilson, who's very good and is having a mediocre year because Aaron Rodgers prefers to throw to Allen Lazard, who's having a solid year. Fine. They're a dumpster fire of an organization, have been for years, the New York Jets. And they put all their eggs in the basket of a 40-year-old quarterback coming off of an Achilles injury. Lazard also apparently leads the league in drops, which I did not know. But he has put up okay numbers this year for the Jets. Robert Saleh was not the issue. The issue with the Jets goes all the way up to Woody Johnson. It's in the front office. It's in the rest of the coaching staff. It's in the personnel that they brought in. Aaron Rodgers, it reminds me of a couple of years ago when the New York Mets said, okay, we're going to go for it. And they signed Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, 2 incredibly talented pitchers, 2 guys that have won multiple Cy Young Awards, 2 guys that are on the fast track to the Baseball Hall of Fame, just like Aaron Rodgers. Multiple MVPs, Super Bowl winner, one of the best quarterbacks in the history of football. But it's the same problem. Old. Scherzer and Verlander were solid in a New York Mets uniform. But they put all of their eggs in the basket of 2 guys that realistically didn't have more than 2 years left in them. Maybe 3 of high-level performance. Same with Aaron Rodgers. He was 39 years old when the Jets signed him. They were okay. They weren't Verlander and Scherzer, but they were fine. And, they weren't, the Cy Young level of Verlander and Scherzer, but I wouldn't say either of them were particularly bad, if I remember correctly. And Aaron Rodgers was 39 years old when the New York Jets signed him to that contract. Coming off of a not very good year in Green Bay. It was a fine year, but it wasn't MVP level Aaron Rodgers that we saw just a couple of years prior. Then he goes out and tears his Achilles in week 1. 4 snaps into the season. He came out holding the American flag. It was, the Patriot Aaron Rodgers is finally going to be the quarterback that the New York Jets have been looking for. Goes down, out for the year. Wasted season last year. 100%. Defense is great, but it's a wasted season from an offensive perspective. So they double down. They say, all right, last year it didn't work because we didn't have Rodgers. If we had Rodgers, this would have been, we would have been back in the playoffs. We would have been fighting for the AFC East, maybe an AFC championship. We just need Rodgers. He comes back. The Jets are 2-3. The defense is still good. Nothing changed there. The offense is still anemic. So you fire your coach 5 games into the season. And obviously every team does this because they have to find a scapegoat. It's someone's fault. So it has to be the head coach, right? Robert Saleh. And I'm not going to sit here and say I think he's a great head coach because I don't. I think he's a fine head coach. Nothing special, that's for sure. But that is not the issue. And it never is the issue with the Jets. Very rarely is the issue with that team just the coaching staff. Adam Gase was a terrible head coach. He was not the only reason that team was bad. That team was bad because of the players that were on the field. It's once again, and Jim saying, Rodgers, as soon as he found out Saleh wanted to make a change at offensive coordinator, they boot Saleh. And there could be some truth to that. I know Aaron Rodgers went on the Pat McAfee show and said, I don't have as much power as people think I do. I had nothing to do with the firing of Robert Saleh. I don't entirely believe him. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he went into Woody Johnson's office and said, hey, you fire the coach or I'm gone. I'm not going to sit here and say I think he did that because I don't. But this guy clearly does have some influence because they have Nathaniel Hackett. They have Alan Lazard. I believe last year they went and signed Randall Cobb. So clearly the guy's got some influence. He wants his guys around him. This is not the way an organization should be run. It's a bad look for the New York Jets. It's a bad look for a lot of football that your quarterback has this much influence, potentially, on the rest of the team, on the organization as a whole, that can make coaching decisions. I bet if it was up to Rodgers, I bet Nathaniel Hackett would be the head coach moving forward. Because that's his guy. It's just, this team year in and year out continues to prove that they just need to be sold. And that they need a revamp from the top down of the entire New York Jets organization. Because somehow it just keeps getting worse. And I don't know how, but it seems like it does. Jim says, who now takes the Jets job knowing that Hackett isn't going anywhere? That's a good question. Because I saw Vegas put the odds of the next full-time head coach of the New York Jets. It said Bill Belichick was the favorite at 2-1 odds. Now, if I'm Bill Belichick, Hall of Famer, one of the great coaches in the history of the National Football League. What was it, 5 rings? You had Tom Brady. You had one of the greatest teams of all time in New England for a number of years. Why would I come out of retirement to go to an organization where I don't run the show? Bill's he's got a deal with Underdog Sports or Underdog Fantasy where he does a weekly show. He's hopping on doing some broadcasting stuff on TV. He's in commercials. He can enjoy retirement, make probably a couple $1 million a year doing his other ventures, and relax, knowing that he has a legacy in the NFL that, despite how it came to a close in New England, is pretty much untouchable. Now, would it even improve his legacy a little bit if he went and saved the New York Jets? Yeah. If he went and saved the New York Jets. But it's not the coach. It is not the coach for the New York Jets. It's a myriad of other things. We got to take a timeout. I don't know who can fix the Jets, but I don't think it would be Bill Belichick. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek. Yeah, Jim, I'm trying to keep them on time for you today. I'm getting so tired of the Jets, man. Just have a little awareness. Every year. Every year, it's the same deal. Listen, and Jim, if the Eagles lose again this week, I'm more than happy to start considering Bill Belichick coming to Philadelphia. Sirianni has been doing me no favors this year as an Eagles fan. Yeah, Washington's fun. They're a fun team. Jaden Daniels looks legit. Hey, man, Danny Dimes has been playing some solid football for the New York Giants this year. I got to say it. He hasn't looked that bad. He's had a couple of mediocre games, but all in all, I'd say it's been a successful-ish start to the season for Daniel Jones and the New York Football Giants. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the score 1260. Just looking over the pitching matchup tonight today, I should say, this afternoon, for the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Guardians. This one being played in Cleveland. Tarek Skubal, the presumptive American League Cy Young Award winner, on the mound for Game 5. Win or go home for the Tigers or Guardians. A couple of division rivals. Matthew Boyd, former Detroit Tiger, on the mound for Cleveland. And this Detroit Tigers story has been one of the more fun stories in all of baseball this year, right up there with the New York Mets. And it's interesting that they're going to Skubal in Game 5 because, Jim, you just brought it up. That means if the Tigers win this game, which they're currently minus 120, if the Tigers win this game, the Yankees will likely only have to face Tarek Skubal once over the course of that series if it were to go 7 games. Maybe twice if they want to pitch him on short rest. But it's a lot of fun to see a team like the Tigers, who I believe their payroll is like $25 million. It's insanely low. Go on this hot streak without the one guy that they're paying a ton of money to, in Javi Baez. He's the one guy that once he went down on August 11th, the Tigers started playing their best baseball, which is very funny. Because Javi Baez has obviously struggled mightily in a Detroit Tigers uniform since signing that contract. He swings and misses a ton. His defense isn't as good as it used to be. And they put this Trey Sweeney kid in the lineup at shortstop, who offensively has not been great, but defensively is filled in very adequately at shortstop. Rookie. And it's just a team based on, just scrappiness, a good bullpen, one great starting pitcher, but not, a dynamite rotation by any means. This is a team that sold at the deadline. They had Jack Flaherty, who they traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers and became a stalwart in that rotation towards the end of the year and helped the Dodgers get where they are right now, thanks to their multiple starting pitching injuries. So this team sells at the deadline, and they go out and play some of the best baseball across the entire league in the second half of the season. Like I said, starting on August 11th. To go 86-76 and make the playoffs. They were good on the road, 43-38. Just a solid ball club that has been a ton of fun to watch. I'm rooting for them hard against Cleveland today because Cleveland's got easily the best position player in this series in Jose Ramirez. Josh Naylor's really good, both the Naylor brothers. But you gotta love when a team, it reminds me of, and granted, this team was much more star-studded than these Tigers are, but it reminds me of the 2006 St. Louis Cardinals, who obviously they went on to win the World Series, but just a team that was a wild card team and really didn't put it all together until late in the season. They finished 80, or I'm sorry, they weren't a wild card team. They did finish first in the Central, but they were 83-78. They weren't a world beater in the regular season by any means. Their pitching, for the most part, was very mediocre. Chris Carpenter had a great season. He went 15-8 with a 3.09 ERA. That guy was nasty. But then other starting pitchers that year, Jason Marquis, 33 starts with a 6.02 ERA. Mark Mulder and Anthony Reyes both had 17 starts. Mulder had a 7 ERA. Reyes had a 5. Jeff Weaver was on that team, 15 starts with a 5.18 ERA. Now, they did have some kid coming out of the bullpen by the name of Adam Wainwright, who was very good for them that year as a setup man. And obviously, Waino went on to have quite the career as a starting pitcher in St. Louis. But even then, you look at the position players on that team. You have Albert Pujols, arguably the greatest first baseman to ever live, arguably the greatest right-handed hitter to ever live. Scott Rowland, Hall of Famer. Jim Edmonds, in my opinion, probably should be in the Hall of Fame. That guy was incredible. Yadier Molina behind the plate. Wasn't much of a hitter back then, but obviously such a great defensive catcher. David Eckstein, who had won a World Series already in 2002 with the Los Angeles Angels. Juan Encarnacion, who was a power bat for a long time in the major leagues. There were guys on that team. They still only won 83 games, and they still went on to win the World Series. Just the same kind of scrappy, kind of underdog that we see in these Detroit Tigers. Now, obviously, like I said, the Cardinals roster was significantly better than the Tigers in terms of offensive talent, but the pitching wasn't as good. The Tigers this year had one of the best bullpens in all of baseball. Tarek Skubal has been incredible. It's just a lot of fun to see a team like that. And Jim made the joke, those spunky underdog Mets with a $300 million payroll. Yeah, I know. The New York Mets payroll is very high. But they're still paying, if I remember correctly, they are still paying Max Scherzer. They are still paying Justin Verlander. Yeah, there we go. They still owed $20 million to Scherzer to play for the Rangers, $25 million to Verlander to play for the Astros, $10 million for James McCann to play for the Baltimore Orioles. That's a pretty significant chunk of your payroll that is not playing for your team. Now, granted, Lindor, $34 million, Nimmo, $20 million, Marte, $20 million, Diaz, $21 million, Jeff McNeil, $10 million, Pete Alonso, $20 million. Obviously, they're paying guys. But this isn't some, these aren't the Yankees of 2009 or the early 2000s when they would go out and sign these big-name free agents. I think of the 09 team because you had A-Rod, you had Mark Teixeira, guys like that they committed a lot of money to be the superstars. Yeah, they did that with Francisco Lindor, who they traded for and then signed to an extension. Brandon Nimmo, homegrown. Starling Marte, more of a role player than a superstar. Edwin Diaz, he's the star closer who they traded for and then end up signing. Or I'm sorry, they did sign him via free agency. Jeff McNeil, homegrown. Pete Alonso, homegrown. There's a lot of guys on this team that came up through the Mets system, and that's before we get into Francisco Alvarez and Mark Vientos and Luis Angel Acuna and David Peterson. Guys that were in Syracuse just this year. Yeah, okay, I thought it was a trade with Seattle. It doesn't say that on Baseball Reference for some reason. And guys that came up through Syracuse this year, and those are the guys that are making a big difference. David Peterson has been solid as a rock for the New York Mets this year. Mark Vientos, once he started playing well, that's when this team got going. Francisco Lindor, yeah, he is the franchise player who's making $34 million a year. And by the way, like Jim said, might be maybe not underpaid, but the Francisco Lindor hate train from a lot of Mets fans has been unbelievable. I don't get it. Did he struggle in his first season in New York? Yes, he did. He only hit .230. His OPS plus was a league average 100. The following year, he had 270 with 26 home runs, 16 stolen bases. The following year, he had 254 with 31 home runs, 31 stolen bases, 121 OPS plus. This year, 273, 33 home runs, 29 stolen bases, 138 OPS plus, which, by the way, is a career high. He never put up an OPS plus that high when he was in Cleveland. Still playing incredible defense, still a great base runner. He's 30 years old. You've still got a few years left of that prime. And he had a go-ahead grand slam against the Philadelphia Phillies in the playoffs to help the Mets advance. A team that, at times this year, looked completely dead. Just down and out. So, yeah, I know they've got the high payroll. But this is not the same type of high payroll as we've seen from teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox. Teams that have all done that in previous years to try to win World Series. The Dodgers spent $1 billion in the offseason. $1 billion. And they had a bullpen game in the NLDS. That's a team where it's like, you would never say, oh, those scrappy underdog Dodgers. But I think it's kind of fair to say that about the New York Mets. They are kind of the scrappy underdog. They were the little brother in that division to both Philadelphia and Atlanta the past few years. Yes, former Red Sox Ryan Brazier started that bullpen game. That guy, ugh. Still have nightmares thinking about Ryan Brazier closing games for the Boston Red Sox. But I think you can call the Mets a little bit of a scrappy underdog. Just a little bit. One of their best players this year, when he's been up in only 85 games, has been Jose Iglesias, who most notably put out a very catchy pop song as La Candelita. OMG is a great song, by the way. It rocks. Those are the type of guys you've got on this Mets team. Like you said, Jim, high payroll, but actually likable. How can you not have fun rooting for this New York Mets team? It's just, I'm all in. I'm all in on this Mets squad. I hope it's a great series against the Dodgers. I hope it goes 7 games. And I would love to see the amazing New York Metropolitans in the Fall Classic this year, whoever they may face off against. How about a Subway Series? That'd be fun. Huh? Little Yankees-Mets World Series? That'd be a lot of fun. Mets-Tigers, the 2 underdogs of the postseason. The 2 teams that faced the most and came back to make the playoffs. How about them facing off in the World Series? That'd make for a hell of a story, wouldn't it? It'd be a lot of fun. So I'm all in on these New York Mets, and I think you should be too, especially given the amount of guys on this team that we saw at NBT Bank Stadium, not just this year, but in the couple of years prior. Do have to take a timeout. We will be back in just a second here on Outside the Box Score.
For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score.
Top Tier Roofing is raising
Yeah, I also would like to see the Yankees not make the World Series, but Subway Series is always fun. I see my tonight. It feels like it. I can't believe that line keeps moving. Are people that high on NC State? I don't think they're that good. See, Jim, I saw it at one point at like 5. It opened at 3.5. Then I saw a bunch of money going SU's way. And then now all the money's going NC State's way again. Yeah, they don't have a quarterback. I don't get it. We're going to talk about it when we come back. But are like 2? 2? I will not be betting on the Bills Jets game. Because I have I'm a man of principle, and I have a rule that I never bet against a team that fired their coach. Never. It's worked out okay for me. A lot of times I bet on a team that just fired their coach. And yeah, I just I refuse to bet against the team that fired their coach. And I don't want to bet against the Bills because I really want the Bills to win that game. So I will not be betting on that one. But if I were, I would bet Jets just because of my principle. I think the Bills win, but it's me. Does work great in hockey. Yeah, I do it. I did it in baseball this year when the White Sox fired their manager. Didn't work. They lost the first game. That's fine. I always do it. But I will not be doing it this game. I'm not betting against the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, Jets when they're in first place at 3-3, and then certain Jets fans are going to be all, all ecstatic about it. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Do want to tell all the people, if you like the show and want to hear more of me, you can next week. Not only on this show at 11 a.m. on the Score 1260, live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, but listen to me for a few days on the Man-Child Show with Boy Green. Boy Green's going to be taking a brief absence. He'll be out for a couple of days. So I will be filling in on October 17th, 18th, and the 21st. That's Thursday, Friday, and the following Monday. You'll be able to hear me on the Man-Child Show with Boy Green. It'll be the Man-Child Show with Mark Rowlands for a couple of days. Always a pleasure to sit in with my good friend Jim the Man-Child Lurch. Spend 2 hours with you from 10 to noon right here on the Score 1260. That is Thursday, Friday, and the following Monday. And of course, I'll be back here Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Twitch.tv/marker_box, live on Twitter at marker_box, or on the Score 1260 YouTube channel. Jim says, but no streaming video. I might see if I can convince Lurch just once, just for one day, maybe on Friday when we do the football picks and all that stuff. Maybe on Friday I can get him to agree to a live stream, because that would be a lot of fun. And see some of the behind the scenes of that show as well, because you can see the behind the scenes of this show when you tune in on any of those streaming platforms. I still talk to you in the breaks. get a nice camera feed of me here in the studio. When Josh is here, we're both on screen. It's always a lot of fun. And Jim says the studio might collapse there with a live stream. And I don't think so. I think we'll see if I can't convince Jim Lurch to do a live stream on Friday, because I think that would be a lot of fun. SU football tonight, NC State, 8 o'clock on the ACC network, going on the road to take on the Wolfpack. Kyle McCord and the boys. Kyle McCord, 1,800 yards and 17 touchdowns so far this season. He has been such a breath of fresh air for the Syracuse Orange. It's going to be a beautiful night in North Carolina. And SU right now is sitting as a 2.5-point favorite over the NC State Wolfpack. NC State is 3-3 on the season. Syracuse is, of course, sitting at 4-1. And the thing about NC State is they don't really have a quarterback. They've got a couple of guys that have played. They've got C.J. Bailey and Grayson McCall, who have played okay, but their offense this season has been up and down. At times they put up, they look really good, and they beat a Northern Illinois team who, of course, went into Notre Dame and beat the Irish. Then they lose to Wake Forest, 34-30. They give up 59 points to Clemson, 51 points to Tennessee. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Syracuse is on the same level of Tennessee and Clemson, but I'm going to sit here and say certainly are on the same level as Wake Forest, in my opinion. Certainly better than Wake Forest, in my opinion. Wake Forest is 2-3 on the season. So why can't SU go in and put up 40 points on the NC State Wolfpack? A team that has struggled defensively, has switched quarterbacks already this season. A team that at times the offense looks good, and very well could tonight against Syracuse, whose defense has not been very good this year. But 2.5 points going the Orange way, that doesn't seem like enough to me, personally. I could see SU beating this team by 12, 14 points, a couple of touchdowns. I don't think that's too out of the question. Syracuse coming off the biggest win they've had this season in Las Vegas against a UNLV team that really has been solid. 44-41, that one. It was a great win by the Orange last week in Vegas. And I know Syracuse has struggled with injuries, and the defense has not been what we thought it was going to be. Like I said, we gave up 41 points to UNLV. But 2.5 measly points for a team that's 4-1 overall, 1-1 in conference, thanks to that horrible Stanford loss. And I know the special teams isn't great. We've talked about that multiple times on this show. But I personally really like the Orange tonight. Kyle McCord has been one of the best quarterbacks in college football, hands down. Robert Griffin III had Kyle McCord 5th in his Heisman rankings thus far in the season. I know that's just one guy. I know that's just RG3. But hey, there's a legitimate buzz around Kyle McCord being one of the top quarterbacks in college football this year. Going up against an NC State team with clearly not a great defense. Why can't we go in there and put up 45 points? I don't see a reason why we can't. If we go out there and control the ball, play average defense, play average special teams, because yes, Jim, like I said, they're not great They're actually not good at all. Play average on those sides of the ball. Let Kyle McCord do his thing. Find Trevor Pena. Find Aronde Gadsden. We've got a guy who was named one of the best freshmen of the week last week, and Aston Willis running the ball along with LaQuint Allen. This offensive attack by the Orange is a force to be reckoned with in the ACC. And I have seen nothing from North Carolina State that says SU won't go into their building and win by more than 2.5 points. So consider this my official pick for the game. SU minus 2.5 against the NC State Wolfpack. SU currently plus 4,000 to win the ACC. I don't hate that bet. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that's a bad number. If you want to throw a little sprinkle on it. I'm currently waiting. When I was in Ohio for week 1, Ohio State versus the Akron Zips. I placed a wager on SU over 7.5 wins. So we're already halfway there. 5 games into the season. I think we win tonight. Be sitting at 5-1. Just need 3 more wins among Pitt, Tech, Boston College, Cal, UConn, and Miami. There's 1 in there in UConn. That's a win. So I just need 2 more out of that remaining group. Then I'll be a happy man after placing my Syracuse over 7.5 wins wager back a few weeks ago in Ohio. We do have to take one more timeout. We'll come back, wrap things up here on Outside the Box Score. You're listening on the Score 1260.
If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of Central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
Best is an absolute.
If UConn isn't a win, then I'm absolutely done with this team. 100%. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of Mark Rowlands on the Score 1260 next week. It's good. Will the Mets still be playing by next Saturday's show? I hope so. I don't think they get swept. I really don't. So it'll be Sunday, Monday. Then it would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah. I don't think they get swept. So, yes, I do think the Mets will still be playing by the time next Saturday's show comes around. I think that series could easily be 3-2 going into that. I saw it. Yeah, 4-1 they'd be out come Saturday, but I could easily see that series being 3-2. I think it's going to be a good series. I really do. The Mets have the magic right now. And sometimes you don't need the best roster in the postseason. Sometimes you just need the magic. We've seen it before. Like I said, the 2006 St. Louis Cardinals, the 2011 St. Louis Cardinals, the 2013 Boston Red Sox. The 2004 Red Sox. I mean, they had a great roster, obviously, but we see it all the time in the postseason. We saw it with the Washington Nationals in 2019. Yeah, because Stanton actually shows up in the playoffs. this has been, I'll say, this has been one of the better postseasons we've had in a long time. Really. I've been thrilled with watching this postseason. I haven't seen as much of it as I would like because of work and other things, which for me is I just haven't watched every pitch of every game, which I usually try to do every playoffs, and I haven't been able to do that, sadly. But it has been a breath of fresh air for the baseball playoffs this year so far. The wild card series were good. The division series have been really good. 2 of them going to a game 5. The Mets getting it done against a division rival. The Yankees getting it done against a very, very talented Kansas City Royals team. It's been great. Outside the Royals-Orioles series was kind of a dud. But not, even that, it's just all the young talent you get to watch makes it fun. Just tune in the second half of each game. The whole rust versus rest argument, I think, is stupid. There's no evidence that points to either way. It's 50-50. In all sports, it's 50-50. There's no argument. It's just which is the better team on any given day. That's all that matters.
Only some exclusions apply. See store for details.
And we're back, wrapping up another fun-filled hour here on the Score 1260. I'm Mark Rowlands, and this is Outside the Box Score. We were just talking in the chat. Briefly, I'll bring this up. The whole rust versus rest idea when it comes to playoffs in any sport. It's like, oh, this team, they got a week off. They'll be, so well rested. They can get some guys back. Or are they going to be rusty? It's a solid 50-50 in most sports. I think it's really just not important. Because Braves fans complained about this the past couple of years when they got the first round bye, and it's like, oh, the other team was able to come in hot, and then the Braves go and lose when they don't get a first round bye this year, so it doesn't matter at all. So yeah, I just think that theory's a load of malarkey. Jim says maybe post a Twitter reminder about Thursday, Friday, Monday, something on the Manchild Show. I will. And here's my reminder to you once again. Thursday, Friday, and the following Monday, I will be back on the Score 1260, 10 a.m. to noon on the Manchild Show. Normally with Boy Green, I'll be filling in for Boy Green over those 3 days. I'll also be back here, same time as always, 11 a.m. on the Score 1260 every Saturday. You can follow me on Twitter at @marker_box. You can see the show live on there. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/marker_box, same as my Twitter handle, or go to the Score 1260 YouTube channel, and you can watch the show as well as listen to it every single week. Want to thank Jim, Stone, Pat, everyone in the chat for listening. And once again, reminder, Thursday, Friday, Monday, 10 a.m. right here on the Score 1260. You'll be listening to my lovely pipes once again. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. I hope everyone watches the SU game. Go Orange and go Ducks. My Oregon Ducks taking on Ohio State today, so I'm very excited for that as well. We'll see you next week, 11 a.m. right here on the Score 1260. Peace.